Every MLB offseason, big names steal the spotlight. But for other guys, they're often hiding in plain sight. Let's break down some of the most underrated MLB free agents heading into the 2026 offseason. As winter meetings are now kicking off, some of these guys may have signed by the time you're watching this. But let's talk about some guys I think could have some under-the-radar impact going into the 2026 season. Every winning team needs a secret weapon, a player whose contributions far outweigh the spotlight they receive. And I believe one of those underrated players still currently on the market is Rob Refsnyder. Refsnyder has been viewed as nothing more than a bench player the entirety of his career, but his underlying stats may prove that he is one of the most efficient and impactful role players still on the market. Let me tell you why. His 2025 OPS sat at an impressive 838, albeit in only 70 games, but it's still hard to ignore his OPS plus of 131 to go along with that. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be an everyday player for a team trying to compete, as I don't think his numbers are totally sustainable for a 162-game season, but where I think he falls in as underrated is how a team can use him as a platoon bat against left-handed pitching, and how his numbers are a lot better than I think most people give him credit for. His average exit velocity in 2025 was 92 miles an hour, which is comparable to guys like Vlad Jr., Gunnar Henderson, and Corbin Carroll. Again, I know it's a small sample size of only 70 games, but that does show that when he is hitting the ball, he's hitting it hard at a pretty elite level. He does strike out a decent amount at 25.8%, but he also did walk a lot, well above average rate this year at 11.8%. His weighted WOBA, or weighted on base average, sat all the way up at 359 in the 70 games he played. You know who else had a 359 WOBA in 2025? Jose Ramirez. Stop it, don't worry, forget about it. I'm not by any means comparing Rob Refsnyder to Jose Ramirez. I would never commit such a crime. But I do think these numbers say that Refsnyder can replicate his numbers against left-handed pitching at least for another season. I think where his underrated value comes in is the ability to design more than a solid right-handed bat that crushes lefties, plays pretty average defense with a strong arm, and the hope that you can sign him to a fairly cheap deal. My guess would be around a 1 to 2 year deal, somewhere around only the $3 to $5 million a year range. But if you could get him at that deal, I don't see why a competing team wouldn't want to take a chance on him. It just broke that Alonso signed with the Orioles as I was making this video, but let me continue to make my point. I think some people view him as overrated. I actually think he could be a pretty underrated signing for a team looking for one of the best power-hitting right-handed bats in the game. His Baseball Savant page also proves just how much of an elite power hitter he actually is. Holy moly, look at all that red. Look at it. But it also proves that there should be no sign of him slowing down in the near future. Now, I'm not actually sure if Pete Alonso technically falls in the underrated category, but I do think fans across the league do view him as more so overrated than underrated. Over the last 5 years, Alonso is 4th on the total home run list with 195, only behind guys like Schwarber, Ohtani, and of course Aaron Judge. Now, I wouldn't say he strikes out a crazy amount either, with his strikeout percentage being in the 40th percentile, which I know is still below league average, but given the amount of power he hits for, you may expect it to be lower. He does walk at only a league average rate, right around 8.6%, which is in the 53rd percentile, but he did still have an above average on base percentage of 347, with the league average hovering right around 320. The least amount of home runs he's hit in a 7-year career up to this point is 34. He's good to play pretty much every game of a 162-game season, and is an RBI machine that hits the ball insanely hard, with his average exit velo and barrel percentage being both in the 97th and 98th percentile. Now, it's not a secret he's one of the worst defensive first basemen in the league, even grading out as such, but reports do say he's open to more of a DH role, which could definitely benefit him in the long run. With going in this route would definitely make him one of the best DHs in the entire league. What's also pretty cool about Pete are his righty-lefty splits, in that he actually hits righties much better than he does lefties, with the 2025 OPS against lefties being 729 and a much higher 929 OPS against righties. When you put into perspective that roughly 70% of the league's pitchers are righty, this is more than a compelling stat. So the Orioles signed him. What does that mean? They got him for 5 years, $155 million, which is $31 million a year. And I think it's a good spot for him. The Orioles lacked a lot of consistent play from the first base spot last year, so they can either slide him in there or at the DH as well. But taking a deep dive into his stats, I'm honestly not sure why a lot of people and teams may be overlooking Alonso. Maybe it's because of how polarizing the polar bear is as a player, or people even remembering this corny clip of him meditating and deadlifting before the home run derby that one year. If a team can snag one of the best right-handed power hitters in the game for a 4 to 5 year deal, I consider that a steal. Let's talk pitching now. Zach Gallen might be an interesting name to see on an underrated list, considering that he finished the 2025 season with a career worst 4.83 ERA. Taking a look at some of his advanced numbers under the hood may point to a still solid career ahead of him. Let me show you what I mean. Gallen was one of the most consistent pitchers before last season, and actually considered one of the better starting pitchers in the league from 2020 to 2024. So what happened? To sum it up quickly, people are hitting his curveball. a lot. In 2024, hitters slugged only .230 against his knuckle curve. In 2025, that number nearly doubled, with hitters slugging .438. Safe to say that pitch, along with his game as a whole, wasn't working. Taking a look at his advanced numbers as far as spin rate, whiff percentage, and whip, they are all largely the same. The biggest problem, I think, locating pitches. From his best season in 2023 with a walk percentage of only 5.6% in the 88th percentile, that number jumped all the way up to 8.1% in the 46th percentile in 2025. So from a guy barely walking anybody to a below average pitcher in terms of walks allowed does not usually equate to success. I also think he can benefit from going back to using his fastball more. I mean, check out his 2023 Baseball Savant page. Just take a look at all that red. He was using his fastball then 50% of the time. And when your fastball grades out to be literally one of the best pitches in the entire league, why would you stop using it at that level? In 2025, he only threw it 45% of the time, which absolutely stunk. With people sitting on his curveball more often, that causes more pitches to be hung in the zone, which can almost always cause harder hit balls and more home runs, 31 of which he gave up last season, which was tied for 4th most in the league. So why is he underrated though? I think in large part, the same pitcher he once was is definitely still in there somewhere. Maybe not to the highest level his peak once was, but I don't expect him to pitch to a 4.83 ERA again in 2026. His whip was identical to his 2024 self. He's still giving up just as many hits as he did in 2023, in which he finished 3rd in NL Cy Young voting. It seems to me it really just is a matter of locating, something I am certain he will be trying to fix in the offseason, and something I'm sure will be less of an issue next season. Oh my gosh, it happened again. The Atlanta Braves signed Mike Yastrzemski to a 2-year, $23 million deal, albeit before I could even get this video out. Screwed the pooch on this one a little bit, sorry guys. Can you tell it's my first video? Being a Giants fan, I may be a little biased, but let's talk about Big Mike. A solid player who competing team can slide anywhere in the order, provides solid defense, and if protected in a solid lineup, I think should still be able to have a strong 2026 season. I think consistent is a pretty good and simple word to describe Yaz's game. Watching him for the last 7 seasons in a Giants uniform, I know exactly what he's going to bring to the table. He had a damn near 13% walk percentage in 2025, which was all the way in the 90th percentile, which is better than guys like Bryce Harper, Vlad Jr., and George Springer. In 50 games with the Royals post-All-Star break, in which he definitely played his best ball of the season, he walked 25 times while only striking out 22. He's not one to chase pitches sitting in the 87th percentile in that category, which should be encouraging even in his 35-year-old upcoming season. He hits all fields and has really good pull power. I mean, look at that spray chart. He's definitely not a high average kind of guy, that's not his style, but he is going to give you a lot of games played with maybe a slightly above league average on base percentage, with an above average slugging percentage, giving you anywhere from 15 to 20 bombs a season. Again, he shouldn't be a competing team's 3 to 5 hitter, nor do I think he will be in the Braves lineup, but I think if you're able to slide him in a good protected lineup, and given the history of him being a consistent player giving you stats you know you're going to get, he can be a very valuable asset to someone like the Braves, signing him to a short-term deal and be an everyday kind of player for them. To me, Pete Fairbanks seems like a guy that has flown under the radar the entirety of his career, probably due to the fact that he spent almost his whole career with the Tampa Bay Rays, but true baseball fans should know the value of Fairbanks and what he brings to the table as a pretty dominant back-end bullpen arm. When I think of Fairbanks, I think of a tall fellow with a short arm action that can really run up the radar gun. He stands a pretty towering 6'6", with also the 3rd highest arm slot out of anyone in the MLB at 59 degrees. His average fastball sits around 97 miles an hour with a 2.433 spin rate. I think with his mix of height, arm angle, velocity, and spin rate, he's able to miss a ton of barrels with a barrel percentage of only 4.8%. He has a career average of 5.3%, which does show that this number should hover around that mark for the foreseeable future. His strikeout percentage was down a bit last season at 24.2%, with previous years being as high as even 37%. But him still being able to pitch to a tune of a 2.83 ERA is awesome to see. His FIP was a career high as a full-time reliever last year at 3.63, but according to Fangraphs, this is still considered in between above average and great. So if that's his worst season, even if his number is somewhere around that mark next season, you are still getting a pretty elite bullpen arm, especially if that strikeout percentage creeps back up. This is a guy who can be signed by a team for a more than affordable deal, I believe, that's going to be an elite back-end bullpen guy who can even slide in as a closer for you. His strikeout percentage being at an almost career low while still pitching at a superior level means that if that percentage does go back up in any way next season, we can expect a lot more from Fairbanks. Comment down below who you think I missed. Obviously, there's a ton of free agents on the market right now, and plenty of teams looking to add on. But I'm curious to see what you guys think, and who you think your favorite team should add. With this being my first video now, I really appreciate all those watching, and I'm excited for more to come. Peace.